The broadcast is live. This is Coach Arnie with the Health, Love, Life, and Adventure Show. And we are on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 Internet Talk Network. Like I said, I'm Coach Arnie, and would love to hear from you if there's ever anything I say here or it touches your soul. Reach out, let me know, and let's have a conversation about it. I try to come up with different topics that cover all aspects of health, life, relationships, as well as adventure. So here we go. And tonight we're going to do something a little different. If we're not growing, we're dying. And one of the things that I've had to do in my life is to learn from my failures in life, and because we're all going to fail. We're all going to fail. And probably one of the things that I guess is disturbing to me in my life as a former teacher, I should say former teacher in a professional basis, but I'm always teaching and coaching, but is the fact that we're not teaching our young people how to fail and why it's important. I mean, failure is important if we're learning from it. I was on a call earlier today, and we were actually talking about this subject in that we were looking at the second quarter of 2021 and things that we have learned in the second quarter. And one of the things that I've learned is I've created some new, what they call verticals. I've actually learned some new skills and have relearned some skills just because I was open to listening to some podcasts. And it just triggered some thoughts in my head. I go, oh my God, I used to do this stuff. And so, but if you're not open to it, if you're set in your ways, and believe me, I told the guy, I said, some things that I'm doing that I started doing the last 60 days, it's been 35 years since I've done. And because of my experience in this fitness health space, I was able to attract people in that space with my experience that I didn't have 35 years ago. So I'm very confident in that space and helping people. And now combining that with my very slow but steady knowledge of technology, putting out videos on a regular basis, I'm starting to get responses back from individuals from the technology aspect of some of the things I'm learning. So, like I said, if we're not learning how to fail, then you're really not learning how to live life, because we're all going to fail. And that's just all there is to it. And if we're not learning it at a beginning level, let me use an analogy here of, and it's kind of pertinent to what I'm doing in my fitness program now. And I was listening to an interview with somebody that I'm learning from. And the gentleman asked him, he said, you mean you can take anybody and turn them into an Olympic athlete? And he goes, well, if you were to start these simple movements early enough, and he loves using information. He goes, but take this person and this person who did this for 20 years, and they became an Olympic champion after they were told they couldn't do it. So yes, I am saying that. It's what he said. He goes, I am saying that if you take somebody and you're strategic with these skills, you can become an Olympic athlete over many years. So a young person who's just learning about life, that never fails is really going to struggle. I did a talk one time, 2000, and now it's been 11 years. And I still had my clinic. And the talk was, don't wait till you're 50. That's when I was in 12. Until you get kicked in the teeth. It hurts a lot more. Because I had the things in my life that I had done, and early on, I didn't take big risks. I didn't know that was part of it. I just knew what I wanted to do and just did it. And the risk taking didn't start happening until I saw that what I was doing wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. So I was kind of in the wrong vehicle. I was in a little sedan and I needed to go up a mountain trail. So I needed another vehicle. I just didn't know what kind. And so I kind of swerved into it. And then I started to take some chances, some real big chances, leaving jobs, risking financial things. I mean, just big things, big swings. If you study people that have done really well, they'll tell you that look at a door, and there are hinges on a door, and your life is like this big door, and where you got 2 or 3 hinges on that door. And if you look back and reflect, you can see that there were these 2, 3 instances in your life that you really went for it. Something happened. There have been movies based on this too. A led to B, led to C, led to D. But you had to start. You had to, maybe get the job, maybe ask the person out on a date. Maybe take a risk at work or quit the job and try an idea. Whatever it was that was the trigger, what was the A? And sometimes it went to B because you didn't know what B was. You just knew that there was another step. And if that worked, then it went to C and then D. And pretty soon it just kept going. Now, there are sometimes and many times that it doesn't leave A. You start and just kind of falls apart right there. Hopefully sooner than better. But regardless, even if it doesn't, even if it goes a couple years and you're learning from it, or you meet people, is it really a failure? If you meet the person that can really take you to your dream, is it a failure? So one of the first lessons that I like to teach now to younger people, and I have to continue to tell myself, because failure doesn't feel good. Failure doesn't feel good, but it's that failure is good. It's good. It's okay. It doesn't feel good. It's like a level 2 experience in your life. It doesn't feel good. It's good for you. It's good for others, and it serves the greater good. Now, the idea here is to eventually get failure to feel kind of good. Like, hey, it's okay. It's only money. It's okay. It's only some time. It's okay. I know what I'm doing. I can do this again. When you get to that aspect of it, you're in it. This is a game now. This becomes a game. Because look, when I said in my title, if we're not growing, we're dying. Meaning that if we're not learning something new, if we're not meeting new people, if we're not having new experiences, then technically you're dead. Like a piece of fruit. We've all heard this before. A piece of fruit starts off as maybe a flower, and then it turns into a bud, like a bud, like on a citrus tree, and all of a sudden, you got a little green bud, and then it gets a little bigger. Finally, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Maybe as big as a grapefruit, or maybe as small as a lime. And many times it changes color. And pretty soon you got a piece of fruit. And then if you time it right, you go out there and pick it and you eat it, and it's good. If you don't, it sits there until it rots, it falls off the vine, and then it rots, and then the birds eat it, and I guess it feeds the birds. Your life is kind of the same way. If we're not continually feeding the fruit, if we're not, because see, I look at myself as a fruit inspector, because to me, judgment is poison. But if you see people out there producing fruit in their lives, that's what tells you what's going on in their life. And people that are out there trying and giving it all they got, and trying to get better at whatever they're doing, whether it's a relationship or job, their fitness or health, and they're continually trying and trying different things. And, sometimes we, because I'm in this boat, people will say, what are you doing now? Why are you doing, you're constantly, that's been, I guess I've been that way my whole life. And it's not that you're not satisfied, but you're constantly growing and learning. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be generous here. 90% of the people, let's just say our country here, they're not growing. They're dying, and they just haven't made it official yet. And that's why the good and the bad of the internet. The internet puts everything at our fingertips right now, but it also allows us to be lazy, so we don't have to go anywhere. We don't have to talk to people. We don't have to meet anybody. We don't have to extend ourselves, try new things. It kind of allows us to be lazy and what's the word here? An introvert, even though we're not an introvert. One of my clients today was sharing a thought that he was so angry about this whole shutdown we've gone through the last year and a half, and he was very angry. And I said, it's not going to do any good to get angry. He goes, but what really hurt the most? Because this gentleman has a disability, but he took a chance. He moved out on his own a year and a half ago, moved out from Arizona to Tennessee, got a job on his own, was making friends, was really doing some great things, and then bam, COVID hits. But it's one thing when COVID hits in your hometown, but he was, clear across the country, no friends, no family, no nothing, and he's been extraordinary in his growth. Got a girlfriend, and he just went scuba diving last weekend because he reached out to some scuba people because he couldn't go scuba diving where he normally goes scuba diving last year. And they embraced him, brought him in. He was certified already, so they helped him. They didn't even charge him to take him scuba diving. It was amazing. He's gone twice now. But he embraced the change, but he wasn't happy. What he was most happy about is the fact that he didn't want to stay home. He was in a new place. He wanted to meet people. He wanted to make friends. Now, granted, he did meet a girlfriend, but he wanted to meet friends because before the shutdown, he was going out and meeting people and traveling around the state, trying to learn the state. And this is a guy with a disability. It was amazing what he was doing. And then, bam, took it away from him. And then you look on the other side, a lot of people are like, whoa, this is a good reason to stay at home. Don't do anything. So you have two different thoughts. I guess whatever makes you feel good, you do you. He didn't want to do you. He wanted to do himself. And so I said, let it go. It's not going to matter anymore. It's over. Move forward. Be better. Because he's growing. I mean, I just loved seeing his growth this last year and what he was learning from these harsh life experiences that he was going through as a young guy, 30-year-old guy, leaves home, starts a new life on his own with a disability. I got news for you. 90% of the people in this country would never do that. don't have the guts to do it, the courage to do it. He did it. And he's doing it. And he's flourishing. He's flourishing from it. And so you can't be afraid to take those swings in life. Problem is, most of us are. So we don't grow. We die. And then we're depressed. I mean, who was I talking? Today's been a crazy day. But talking about all the cases of anxiety and depression that are in our country today, just skyrocketing off the charts. With young people, everybody, depression, anxiety, just so sad, suicide. Why all that? And a lot of it is because they're not getting out. They're not meeting people. They're isolating. They're not growing. You know? And a lot of people are settling. Maybe they're settling for a job that they really don't like, but they're too afraid to try something else, or they think they're too old, or they're settling in a relationship, same thing. It's comfortable, but they don't really like it. It's not, all these things pop up. So we're dying. We're dying because we're not learning, because we're not even giving ourselves opportunities to learn from our life's experiences, because we're not allowing ourselves to fail. Because see, one of my steps I wrote down here was that there are no guarantees. Golly, but we have a whole generation of young people that we almost guaranteed them they wouldn't fail. And guess what? They fail. I'm having a lot of fun. The gym that I help run and do a lot of training, and but a group of about 6 or 7 young little girls showed up yesterday, soccer players. All their parents were there, and I mean, we're talking little kids, 5, 6, 7, 8 years right now. And my good friend is their coach, former NFL player. He was pushing them and yelling at them just like he would yell at anybody else. And the scene that pops in my head is this little girl wearing pink shorts and a little top and tennis shoes, pigtails. And she's going over these hurdles, and she makes a turn and is coming back, and she slips off the turf, and there's rocks outside of it. She landed right on them. And everybody kind of froze for a half a second, and I could tell she wanted to cry. And he yelled at her, he goes, "You okay?" And she shook her head, and she got up. No one ran at her and hugged her. And he didn't treat her any different than anybody else. And she just worked through it. She learned from that. She learned that it's okay to fall down and get up, dust yourself off, and keep going. She didn't need 5 or 6 other little girls running over her, mommy running over there and grabbing her. And she wouldn't have learned anything from that except, hey, look at all the attention I got. That's what she would have learned from that. But from this, she learned it's okay to fall down and get yourself up. No one had to help me. I got up and I just kept going. I got up and kept going. Let's hold that thought, everybody. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a quick little break here. So hang on for more stuff on growing. All right, here we go. So there are no guarantees, and that's a tough lesson to learn if you don't learn it early. Because it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt if you don't. If everybody's always picking you up and brushing you off, when the time in your life that it does happen, and there's no one around you to pick you up and dust you off, you know, especially if you don't have a strong spiritual base, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna struggle. Another thing that that learning from our life's experience teaches us is that it teaches us to embrace change. And I've done a couple shows on change, but change is really hard for anybody, whether you're, 5 or whether you're, 95. But it's probably a little easier if you're 5. I mean, you forget it a little quicker, and that's when you start learning about, how to make changes in your life and self-correcting, and that's when we do correct. We correct little people all the way up through their teenage years. That's our job until we slowly, and you should, if you're doing a good job, you should slowly back away because you've done a good job and they can self-correct. But if we don't learn how to self-correct, if we don't learn how to embrace change when change is needed in our lives, we struggle. Just like, when you're dealing with people, you have to learn you can't change them. And that's one of the hardest things to learn in a relationship, whether it's a job, in a personal relationship, anywhere when you're dealing with other human beings. And it's one of the most frustrating things in the world. You can't make anybody else change. And I tell you what, you want to see frustration? Try to make somebody change. You will be so wound up from stress that it'll just knock your socks off because you can't make anybody change. If they don't want to, then you have to decide, is this somebody I want to be around? It's pretty simple. And so learning how to embrace change early in your life gives us a leg up on making changes later on in life, which become progressively more difficult. So teaching young people to embrace change is powerful. It might be the most powerful thing I have written down here, but they're all good, but that's a big one. Here's another good one. Failure is not kind. It's not a fun thing. No. Hey, look at me. I screwed up today. Hey, look at me. I just got a divorce. Hey, wow, look at this. My kid hates me. Failure is not kind. But if you look at it just a little bit differently, if you look at failure just a little bit differently, it's like sometimes if you take a thing like a phone, you can look at it this way, right? Or you can look at it this way, or you can look at it this way, right? Or this way, or this way. So we got many different ways to look at something. So when we're looking at failure and we look at it one way, we think, oh man, this is brutal. This is killing me. But if we go, hold on a second, I'm going to back up. And I know there's a lesson in here somewhere. That reminds me of a story, quick little story here. And two little girls, they were having their dad was going to get them, They went to go visit a farm. They went to go visit a farm. And the first little girl went into the barn, and she's like going, "Oh my God, what's that horrible smell? This is horrible. Get me out of here. This is the most horrible smell. I can't imagine being around this all day long. God, get me out of here." And the second little girl went in there, and she's like going, smell, there's got to be a pony around here somewhere. Now look at same exact age, young ladies, smell, but they looked at it differently. One was excited about the fact that there could be a pony. One wanted nothing to do with it. Wanted out of there. And I think that's how a lot of us are. We're all guilty of it. We walk into a situation and we immediately paint either a negative or positive picture about it. And if we're open, we can change even in the situation. Or if not, I've seen it happen. We shut it all down and we just either are, because I've done it, we just are, grumpy, pain in the butt, or we make the best of it. Because when we make the best of it, you never know what could happen. You never know who you can meet. But we're all guilty of that. We're all guilty of that. So we have to remember there's no guarantees here. We want to embrace change. We want to remember that failure is not kind. And we also have to remember that failure can be motivating. I know it has been for me. Part of the motivation is I don't want to go through that again. I'm going to work my tail off to not allow that to happen again. And so a lot of us, it does become a motivating factor for us. It does. For some, it doesn't. And that's okay, too. But again, failure is not who you are. It's just something that happens unless it becomes who you are, because you don't learn anything from it. It doesn't inspire you to make some changes. And so that's when it becomes who you are, because you don't learn from it. I mean, how many people do you know in relationships are continually getting in the same kind of relationships? You're going, why do they do that? Well, they're not learning. It's like recovery. I've done work in the recovery field. I have a good friend who runs a recovery place. And one of the most amazing things is how sometimes people that work there, it takes them 2 or 3 times of going through the program before it actually takes hold. Now think about that for a minute. Are you? Yeah, because a lot of people are just bouncing along the bottom. And maybe at the right time, they bounced up. I don't need this. I'll get out of here. And then, bam, they hit the bottom again. They're back in it. Until they realize they got to stay in it, learn from it, embrace it, and keep growing. And then pretty soon they get out of it. Pretty soon they get out of it because they're motivated now by what's happened in their life. And they want to make changes. They want to make changes. And kind of on that note as well, failure teaches us to see life differently. Look, I love people, but you can't always trust people. Not with your emotions. See, when we learn in life that we are 100% responsible for what we do, then there are no more surprises. Because when your friend, your colleague, your teammate drops the ball, literally drops the ball, you're not in the blame game. You're just saying, hey, look, what can I do to make this work? Can I step it up a little bit? Can I do a little bit more? You know? And that way you're not being let down by other people. Because the only people you can control are yourself. And in the spiritual world, when you have God on your side and you're good to go. You're unbeatable at that point. But you got to believe that. But if you're waiting for someone else to make you unbeatable, you're going to be disappointed. Because no one else can make you unbeatable but you. That's just a fact. So it teaches us to see life a little differently. Now, for some, it teaches them to kind of be jaded, kind of rough. You know, you've heard this, we've all heard this. Oh, they had a terrible childhood. And look, some people have. They had a terrible childhood and they just, or they were in a horrible relationship and just this happened, that happened. And ooh, they're burnt out. They're scarred. And one of the things we work with relationships is you can't bring your past into your new relationship. And that goes for a job too. If you're at a job and you had some bad experience there with a teammate, manager, boss, whatever it might be. And I had this conversation just a little while ago with somebody because they were trying to turn their new manager into their old manager. Yeah. I said, why are you doing that? That person has done nothing but give you respect and help you since you came over here. He goes, I know. So why are you doing it? And he really didn't know why. But sometimes our brain doesn't want us to succeed. Sometimes our brain is more comfortable when we're struggling. It gives us an excuse. Oh, I can't. This is too hard. I don't know the right people. Nobody loves me. I'm not smart enough. All the nonsense we hear. Maybe we're afraid of if we succeed, that there's going to be added pressure on us to do more, meet more people, be nice, call people, create new relationships. It makes it tough. Kind of, it's like the book "Who Moved My Cheese." I'm guilty of this. When we have a kind of a system, and someone kind of moves you off your spot, it's not easy. When someone moves us off our spot, it's not easy. We don't feel comfortable. We're out of our comfort zone, right? You've heard that. We're out of our comfort zone. And until we get used to that, it's painful. It's painful. So it just teaches how to see life differently. And that's okay. Now, on the other side of that, it keeps us humble. You know, maybe you're one of these ones that's blessed and has had a great run and things work really good. And things are working great for you and all your relationships are cruising along. And then all of a sudden, there's a bump in the road. And you get, as Mike Tyson would say, you get punched in the face. You get punched. And at that point, as Mr. Tyson would say, at that point, when you get punched in the face, you can throw all your plans out the window. Now we're going to see what you can do. Maybe you need to Start from scratch. Create a new plan. Gosh, you can do that, And I think I've told the story, I don't know, probably a couple of times here, but, when I was in college, I was working as a bouncer, usher at a theater. And they brought in some new people. And he created a plan. It's like, wow, great. Did we need a plan? Probably not. We were working fine. The owner of the company came up to me when this gentleman was running late one night. Big show, biggest of the year. And I had everybody in position. No plan. I just knew where everybody's supposed to go. And this guy came running in a few minutes later and goes, hey, I've got the plan. And I go, don't worry about it. And I was being very humble. Don't worry about it. We're all good to go. Just enjoy the show. Well, he couldn't do that. So what he did is that he went to management and said, hey, no one's listening to me and my plan. They're listening to Arnie. See, in this case, he got punched in the face, and we saw what he did. So what he learned from that was complain. I don't know. I've never seen him since. He might be super successful in life today. I don't know. I don't really care. I know what I did when I got punched in the face. I just walked out and said, hey, they let me go because they're all listening. They don't want you guys to listen to me. Well, half the staff left with me. Well, this is okay because we weren't there for the money anyways. We were there to be together and do something together and have some fun and watch a show. So they understood the reason for us to be there in the first place. It wasn't about the money. It was about the camaraderie and the teamwork and working together, supporting each other. And this guy was looking for a badge that said boss, which I've learned is the lowest form of leadership there is. We call that positional leadership. When you have been given a position and then you say, look at me, I'm the boss. So what are we learning from that? Well, he learned that he was just out for a walk because a leader that has nobody behind him is just out for a walk. So I don't know what he learned from that. But this is the kind of stuff that happens in life all the time. Now, could I have been a jerk about it and complained and moaned and groaned? No. I went out and got another job. Part-time. It was just part-time. So that my lesson from that is people are going to do what they're going to do. And this is before I ever did any work in human psychology and behavior and stuff like that. But these kinds of things come up all the time. And then you're put in a situation in your life, how are you going to respond to that? And that's going to make the difference whether you grow or die. How we respond to what life does to us is going to determine whether you are growing or dying. Because every single day we are going to be faced with things that happen. People letting us down, trips that get canceled, sickness, job losses. And that's good, bad stuff's going to happen. So you're going to be tested on the good stuff. Are you a humble person? So it keeps us humble too. Success keeps us humble. Failure keeps us humble. How are you going to respond to what life does to you? It's going to keep us humble. And if it doesn't, might not work out, might work out. I don't know. Just like I said about that guy. Might have worked out for him. I don't know. But I didn't dwell on it. Just moved on. And that's what we have to learn how to do. He's not responsible for my life and I'm not responsible for his life. And I learned that 41 years ago now. 41 years ago. So And let's finish off with this last one here, because I think it's important. Because a lot of us have an idea here and there, but we have to understand that all of our ideas aren't going to work. I mean, my ideas are always floating around in my brain, but I've learned as I've gotten older, to be a little more choosy. Be a little more choosy, because not all of our ideas are going to be great. Be a little more choosy, and before you put before you're all in on something, learn from it, look at it, check it out. Is this something that I can do? Is this something that excites me? Do I feel good about it? If it's not checking all the boxes, you can say, it's okay, I don't have to do that. But when you run into that one or two things that really get you going, that's where you put your money. That's where you put your energy. That's what's going to make you different. But if you're not feeling that, your gut feeling about it, then it may not be the right thing for you. It may not be the right. So that's part of growing too, is being choosy, being better at choosing the right opportunities for you. Now, if you're too choosy, then you may not do anything. See? And I don't know what's worse, doing nothing or doing too much. If I'll choose doing too much, because at least you have some information that, things work and don't work. But people that sit around do nothing. So guys, there you go. There's some great information there about growing. We need to continually grow in our lives. We need to learn from what we're doing, and don't look at failure as failure. Looking at failure as a learning opportunity will change your life. And we all can do that. We all get to make the choice in life to learn and grow or to die. So I hope you guys make the right choice, because remember, you get to choose. No one gets to choose for you. And if you make the right choice, you're going to have a great life. All right, guys, it's Coach Arnie with another great episode here with CC Schatz on the GoingSoloMedia.com and WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast. #1 Internet Talk Network. Guys, I appreciate you. I love you. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.